So, growing up in my household, my father wore a couple of hats, and being from Texas, a 10-gallon cowboy hat or sombrero were not one of them. But one that he wore really well was the ability to identify bullshit and stupidity from his three sons whenever he saw it. What usually began with a palm slap to the forehead, the words that followed usually included chingao, pendejo, huevón, and ay cabrón, which then led into an explanation of what we did wrong and asking, rhetorically, why. To a further extent, my father was also not a fan of excuses, and one of his key phrases for us was, hey, huevón, look at me. Excuses are abundant. And to a greater extent, he's right. They kind of are. So it was no shock to my brothers and I that at the age of 10, 2 years after I had an accident that made me a paraplegic, my parents would want to go on a summer road trip around the state of Texas. A trip I have wittily dubbed the Texas three-step, because y'all know we love our line dancing. But we made 3 stops in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio, and we made sure to visit the important Texas landmarks. But more importantly, we visited the Six Flags theme parks that resided in each city. Now, from the beginning, my father wanted me to ride and enjoy roller coasters with him, and that required him to do a lot of lifting. Unfortunately for my father, I was not a skinny 10-year-old boy. In fact, on our trip to SeaWorld, the idea of owning a portable baby Shamula seemed like a novel invention for him, and it was a running joke the entire trip, but all jokes aside, my family and I were having a lot of fun. In Dallas, at Six Flags Over Texas, I had an opportunity to ride the Texas Giant, which is an award-winning wooden roller coaster, and it's also super scary, but I think it's Texas's way of saying that our coasters are big here too. So we depart Dallas and we head to Houston, and on the first day there, we go to Houston's Astro World, and everything's going swimmingly, even in that armpit of humidity that is Houston summers, and my father continues to put me on coasters with him. And we are having a lot of fun, but like any time that you're having fun, it goes by relatively quickly, and that's exactly what happens. The sun is setting, the day is calming, it's coming to an end, but there's still this one ride that my brother, my father, and I want to get on. It's called Batman, the Escape. Now, Batman, the Escape is kind of an interesting ride for my father and I in that it is a semi-standing roller coaster. But if I'm completely honest with y'all, that shit is a standing roller coaster. Google it. My father and I have convinced ourselves that it's a semi-standing roller coaster because it has a seating apparatus in a way where it has like a bike seat that you can essentially rest your body on, and then an overhead harness comes over you, it clicks, and you're essentially secure in the ride. Now, my father obviously has his hesitations. His son can't stand, but he's weighing other factors. First of which is, I am begging him that I want to get on this ride. I mean, it is the Batman ride. Why would I not want to get on the Batman ride? But secondly, I'm sure he doesn't want to entertain a debate later between my twin brother and I because neither one of us got on the ride because of me, or if he allowed my twin brother on, I would be upset. But the third factor is, and something that he'll admit, is that whole issue of excuses being abundant. And he didn't want to provide an excuse to me that day. So he commits. That coaster pulls up, he navigates my wheelchair to the back, adjacent to the first seat on the ride. He picks me up, puts me in the seat, immediately closes the harness over me, secures himself next to me, and we are set. We are going to be Batman. We are going to fly through the sky. So the ride begins, and we ascend into the sky because we all know Batman, he only jumps from high places. Once we're at the top, we immediately go into a sweeping drop, which is then followed by a vertical loop. It is there that I believe that my left leg has somehow navigated itself outside of the coaster car. In other words, if we're going in 1,000 directions, my leg has positioned itself awkwardly away from my body and has somehow been caught in the car railing, and my father's the first to realize this, and he begins to scream, "Adrian, your leg! Put it back in the car!" I, just realizing, struggled to do just that. Following that vertical loop, we go into 1,000 directions at 55 miles per hour, but my leg will not budge. My father's and I's attention is squarely on my leg, and we could care less about what is going on in this ride, but all of a sudden, in a moment of flare, flash, and extravaganza, as if the Joker was making a surprise entrance, the sole of my shoe lightly skids across concrete. I am at a pause. My heart is beating quickly, but I am beginning to lose faith. Luckily, we're getting close to the end of the ride, and what is really only a minute-long ride feels like an eternity for my father and I, and we're waiting in the queue to pull forward, and my father continues to scream, "Pull in your leg!" And the only thing I can do is say, I can't. Because I have to remind you guys is that I am a chubby kid that has not walked on his legs in 2 years, but 2, it is hot and humid, and it's hard to get a good grip when you got sweaty palms, but 3, and most importantly, any good paraplegic will tell you that if you can't walk and you want to be able to control your legs, you best be wearing pants. And girl, I was wearing shorts that day. And not any type of shorts, but the shorts that kids wore in the early 90s. So I was screwed. And now our screaming has not only caught the attention of my twin brother, but it's also caught the attention of the other coaster riders in front of us. And now they are screaming help on my behalf. And as I look to the side of the car to see if that help is coming, the only thing I can see is a razor-sharp curb that I am almost certain that in the future, if there is a cure for paralysis, it won't matter. This cowboy will not two-step on 2 legs ever again. I don't know if it's God, my guardian angel, Hare Krishna, or Selena Quintanilla, may she rest in peace. My leg spasms, and it comes back into the coaster car. My heart is settling, but my father is sweating profusely as if we had been sitting in a splash zone at SeaWorld. His skin is pale white, a color I'm not too familiar with because he's worked so hard as a mechanical engineer in the El Paso sun. When we pull forward and that car comes to a stop and that harness has come up, my father immediately picks me up, puts me in my wheelchair, kisses my forehead, looks at my twin brother and I and says, "Ay, cabrón." Now, I'm not going to start making excuses, but this pendejo has not and will not ride another standing roller coaster ever again. Thank you.